One thing to add though too is like, I mean, I do think it's true that there's like this like obvious like arrested behavior, right?
For sure.
But also like, you have to wonder what is it, or like the next logical question, I guess, since I'm going to put my rationalist hat on
Put it on. She's already wearing it, by the way, and you would never believe what it looks like.
We can't even say it on the show. You get arrested for that now.
No.
Is what is it about our society that is causing people to want to regress? Right? Because it's a regression. It's a regression into the safety of childhood, or even the fear, even the stuff that you fear when you're a kid feels safe, right? And what is it about our society that is making that more desirable than, becoming an adult? And I think that that's like kind of the next big question that, to be sympathetic to a lot of these kids, even though a bunch of them murdered allegedly a bunch of people.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's something about this at a kind of society-wide level. You could look at it with like almost what we were talking about last time with like galaxy gas, like people wanting to kind of like just obscure their minds, just blur everything out. But also soy, Marvel, Funko Pop stuff. It's obviously the number one thing in America. It's for kids. But I think there's also a particular Silicon Valley thing where, they do see themselves as these like sort of, it's like there's a heroic narrative around it. They're like inventing new things that are going to save the world. And they're also like summoning these like demonic AI futures and they, with good reason, because this stuff is like being validated by huge valuations.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like you think like, oh, you're going to tell us that we're not like Harry Potter using the methods of rationality? Well, like the $100 billion valuation of OpenAI says otherwise. And there's also there's a kind of like magic in all of that. Like they're creating stuff out of sort of out of nothing. And it's also tied to this like decades-long nerd sci-fi culture and kind of hippie ideas at the root of it, but also just the sense of like we're a little bit outside of society, where the classic like dropout like college kid didn't Zuckerberg, whatever. So anyway, I think all of that ties into a kind of youth fetishization mode. Like we don't have to grow up, we don't have to start wearing suits that aligns with with having a sense of morality that essentially ends at like age 11 Harry Potter juvenilia. And also that's like, it's like there's so much like they just achieved so much and it all happened in such a short period of time that I think it just really
it's not even like a morality that ends at that. It's like something that's always struck me about the like reading the Rationalist blog posts is like it's the oh my God, I literally just almost said the method of rationality.
It's a good method of rationality.
It is, though. It's like the way they approach.
Yes.
It's the logic. It's like the hard logic parameters that they approach things. There's no like shading of anything. It's like when they run up against something that might have like a gradation to it or shades of, it's not even moral because it's not like they're only talking about these big ethical or moral quandaries or whatever. But even, in that instance, we'll say that it's like something, it doesn't fit. They have to, there's like a rigidness and everything has to kind of conform to a very systematic, approach.
Yeah.
Everything needs to fit in categories or,
I also want to draw a distinction between the Rationalists and the Zizians. I mean, like it's like the Zizians are really the ones who are doing a lot of this sort of taking of like extreme moral binaries and like thinking about it through this sort of framework of ideas drawn from more mainstream rationalism like decision theory and whatever like and thinking about it in terms of AI risk and stuff. But like I think a lot of people are like reading Yudkowsky and posting on Less Wrong and not thinking that everyone in the world is either good or evil. I think like plenty of them.
No, yeah.
That's the particular sort of Zizian derangement is the extreme moral binary applied to like every phase of life, as opposed to just thinking about it as like we're into thought experiments and game theory and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I do think that there is. I mean, prior to a lot of the Zizian stuff, I think like the popular picture of like the rationalist. I mean, and we're not even necessarily talking about Yudkowsky here, but probably like Scott Alexander.
Yeah.
And like whatever Slate, Star, Codex, Slate, Slate. I get it wrong every time.
Is it Star Slate or Slate
You know,
Star?
well, you know what?
Slate
No,
Star.
don't. No, Liz was right last time we had this argument, and I can't remember which it is.
But then he became Astral Codex 10, didn't he?
Then Astral Codex 10. He became Astral Codex 10.
Because after he got DAS. I don't know why.
Jesus Christ.
Know
But
that
like
shit.
he came up with this like mea culpa post like a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you guys saw, where he was like, hey, I didn't know that like all of my
Oh,
rationalism
that's who I was
stuff-
just saying that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was saying that to you, and the we were walking up here. Yeah,
Yeah, and like that, like their previous sort of like moral position was like actually the most moral thing is to be completely neutral in everything.
Yes.
Like as a starting position, and take no preconceived notions or anything into it, and approach every issue as if it has no context or whatever.
and let every single thing argue for itself.
Exactly. And so
basically.
there was this sort of like it wasn't like necessarily the good and evil binary, but it still was, because evil was something that like evil was people coming into things with like preconceived notions or with their own like systems of morality that like they got from the fucking, not, they wouldn't tell it like this, but like really what they're saying is they got from the Matrix. And so I think there was, it just wasn't like, it didn't lend itself necessarily to this extreme ism that Zizian stuff did, but if you could utilize it essentially like in pursuit of that, because like, you know, you have Scott Alexander here saying like, we wanted to be able to discuss common sense facts about sex and race without getting called Hitler, so we cheered as must dismantle the censorship industrial complex, and the next day every third tweet was something like, the Jews are forcing antibiotics on you to keep you weak, and God help me, but lots of people are starting to believe it. And it's like, okay, but like, you're stupid. Like this is I think like my main thing is like a lot of these people are just like stupid because they actually like, they not only think that they're the smartest people in the world, but like they're unable to see like where their next foot will land.
well, it's like a very cynical naivete.
Yeah.
Like it's not even. It's like, come on.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes like a baffling ignorance of how like very basic things in the world works that makes me believe, like I was like, oh, like again, like what my refrain throughout all of this stuff, not only talking about the Zizians but the rationalists, is like, you people really cannot do fucking anything.
That's for sure.